Hey guys, welcome back to the channel where I cover missing persons, unsolved cases, crime news, and more. You know, sometimes I cover cases here, and as much as I try to keep up with them, sometimes I fail to see updates or things that have happened. And in the case of Miranda Sipps, there hasn't been a complete resolution or trial yet that I have been able to locate. However, I will say thanks to a family member related, it looks like on stepdad's side, believe it's a cousin. She commented, he or she, I better make sure I'm very clear on that because I'm not sure if it's a female or a male, commented that my entire video was not true. Now, I will state that there are truths there, but it does seem like there's a lot that is sort of it's not really, still hasn't been explained by the sheriff's office, DA's office at this point. But sadly, it does seem like Miranda was attempting to unalive herself. And that is what caused her initial injuries before her mother, Denise, and her stepfather discovered her. And then, of course, she spent 4 days laying on a pallet. They were trying to give her supplements, smoothies, oxygen, allegedly. So that stuff is true. But apparently the injuries that were inflicted upon Miranda were not done by her mother nor her stepfather. That does not mean they are not culpable in some way for what happened after they discovered Miranda. Okay? If they discovered her, again, this is very, very difficult because there's not a lot of details online about this. But what it appears to be is that, again, like I said, she tried to unalive herself. Gotta be careful here on YouTube, folks. And then I guess they were afraid, mom and stepdad were afraid to bring her to the hospital to call for help for whatever reason. Obviously, their home, once law enforcement searched it, was not clean. So that was an issue. But by not getting 12-year-old Miranda the help she desperately needed, that prolonged, in my opinion, I haven't seen the autopsy or any of those reports yet, but it sounds like it made her suffer further. That does not mean that doctors or what have you could have saved Miranda. That we don't know. And I don't think you can know. I am curious what the medical examiner and experts believe, but she was allegedly injured around the neck. So it does sound like they discovered her and then they decided to treat her at home, which I feel horrible for the entire family, but that does not change the fact that I don't blame Mom, Denise, and her stepdad, Gerald Gonzalez, because they did not get her help until she started going into respiratory distress. And that's when they loaded her in the car, called the cops, called 911, and they stated that she needed help. So again, that does not change my opinion on that they did not handle this properly. But it doesn't sound like, I do want to be clear, it does sound like mom and stepfather did not cause the initial injuries on Miranda. There was also another press conference held by the sheriff's office, so I'm going to play a bit of that where he kind of goes into more information about it. He's also a bit generic the sheriff a bit on it. Still, it's to me, it's still it's just incredibly sad that she was in this state of unconsciousness, barely fluttering her eyes. And the bottom line is her parents failed to act. Okay? That's where the problem lies. And it's incredibly horrible and sad that Miranda was experiencing some horrible thing that she felt like she had to do this. So my condolences go to the cousin and the other members of the family. I know her father. I did find his Facebook, and I know this is now last year, 2024, but my condolences continue to go out, and my prayers to this family on the loss of Miranda. This is a press conference that the sheriff's office did. I believe this was back in December. Again, a lot. I think there's more information that came out. It alluded to what happened. But again, the sheriff was being extremely cautious with how he worded or said things.
Upon completing this initial investigation, we had probable cause to charge these individuals with injury to a child with serious bodily injury, which is a first-degree felony, by omission. So in other words, by failing to act and provide the little girl medical attention, constituted omission, and therefore injury to a child by omission. Yesterday afternoon, officers from the sheriff's office went to Christine with arrest warrants, and we arrested the mother and the stepfather without incident. They've been booked into the Atascosa County Jail, and their bond has been set at $200,000 each. The mother is identified as Denise Balmanetta, age 36, and the stepfather is identified as Gerald Gonzalez, age 40. Our victim is Miranda Sipps, age 12. And she would have been 13 later this month.
Again, like the sheriff stated at the beginning, it's about failure to act. That's why they were charged. And since this press conference, they did make bail and they have been out. Again, I'm not seeing any updates during a search I made today, a number of searches, about if the trial, it was scheduled for February, but it looks like it may not have happened yet. So if you happen to know anything about if there is a trial set, or if they pled out or anything like that, please do let me know in the comments, or you can always send me an email.
She was sent for an autopsy. We're still waiting for the final autopsy results, which will be a little while. In the meantime, we have some investigating to do on different things, and we're following up on those leads. And at this time, I think I'll just see if y'all have any questions.
The type of injuries that she received, are they consistent with what kind of damage made with what?
The injuries were life-threatening. They put her into a state of being unconscious. She was not talking. She basically could flutter her eyes and move her hands a little bit. Over a 4-day period, they had her laying on a pallet in the house. I will not, at this point in time, go into the injuries, detail on the injuries, or how they happened, because I'm not 100% sure. And I don't want to sit up here and tell y'all these injuries happened this way, and I find out that they happened a different way. So we're going to get to the bottom of it before we address how the injuries occurred.
So she was 4 days without no.
without any medical attention. They did get oxygen for her at one time, I think.
You say that she received smoothies. They were drinking smoothie.
They were trying to give her smoothies, but somebody that's unconscious is not able to swallow.
Do you know if there was a welfare check done at this home previously in the last year or so?
Ma'am, I don't know all of that. We had calls for service at that house in the past. I don't have the information on what those were or when they were, but all of that becomes part of the investigation. And those things may come out later, or they may not have anything to do with it.
So right now, if you don't know exactly what happened or how did it happen, what are the basis of the arrest in criminal charge?
What we do know is what they told us, what the mother told us.
Did they confess?
Basically, yes. Yes. Both of them basically confessed. But as to how the injuries occurred, exactly, we still have a little bit of doubt. We need to figure that out before I'm standing up here and saying, yes, it happened this way. We know what she told us.
Sheriff, you say that they confessed. Can you give us an idea of what they said?
No, ma'am, I can tell you that they told us how the injuries happened, and they told us they failed to act. And you can, just for the sake of argument, throw out how the injuries occurred. Throw that out the window. You still have a duty as a parent to provide medical care for a 12-year-old child. And that's what we're talking about right here.
Sheriff,
We're not talking about them assaulting the child, trying to kill the child, or anything like that. We're talking about them failing to act and get that 12-year-old girl medical attention like she should have gotten.
did they say what led up to what happened to the little girl? An incident, something at school, at home?
Nothing at school. This had, contrary to what you may see on the internet, had nothing to do with school. School didn't start till Monday. And of course, she wasn't there. So it had nothing to do with school. We have a story from the mother, like I said, but at this time, we're not prepared to release that.
Did they show any kind of remorse so far?
A little bit, maybe.
Not really.
Not like a regular
No.
parent or mother?
No, not like you or I or any of us probably would. The mother, as my investigator said, not really at all. The stepdad did exhibit some remorse.
Sheriff, I know you said that you all had been out to the house for a previous call. Have these two individuals been arrested prior, and what were the situations in that case?
I'm sorry, but I do not have their criminal record available to me right now, and I have not looked at it. So that's something that, I think they both had their issues with the law in the past, but I don't have that information to give you.
Sheriff, when in that phase of interrogation, do you ask them why they don't react on those 4 days? Why they didn't have that make a sense of urgency to?
Basically, they thought they could nurse her back to health, and we do not think they wanted the attention that this would draw to them if the little girl was injured, which is strangely ironic, but that was their line of thinking.
During the investigation, have your deputies found any other things inside the home that might be of question? Any, alcohol that's excessive, or drugs or drug paraphernalia, anything like that?
No.
So the initial call was in the home, but she was attended in the road.
Our information led us to believe they didn't want law enforcement at the house. She left with the child. And then we made contact with her by telephone, my dispatchers did, and told her to pull over because the EMS unit was not far away. So EMS did get the child, and they started immediate care to the child and did everything they could for her, and got her to the hospital as quickly as possible. I understand they worked on her at the hospital for an hour, but there was nothing they could really do at this point. You know, and you got to remember, she'd been in that situation, laying on the floor for 4 days.
Can you share with us any physical marks, broken bones, anything of that nature?
No broken bones. No marks that I could share with you right now. We'll wait till we get the autopsy report back to be sure about that.
You said that you felt like they didn't want law enforcement there at the house. Well, how were the living conditions there?
Dirty.
Basically, an unkept house, yes. Not what you'd want.
Can you describe that at all? Like standing water?
No,
sewer?
nothing like that, but just, I guess, picture not clean house for a month or something, you know, just untidy, unkept, sort of dirty.
Was anyone else living at the home, or a neighbor or anything like that, aware of anything happening inside of the home?
No. And I'm fully aware this leaves a little bit of a hole in what you're trying to get, but it has to be that way for now until we get through.
Thank you.
So again, it's a failure to act, and they're being charged with death by omission. It doesn't seem like I'm reading anything anywhere else beyond those sort of charges, but in the end, this is a very, very sad, it's a very sad situation, because it sounds like this sweet 12-year-old girl who, you know, for all intents and purposes on the outside, she looked like a happy-go-lucky kid like anyone else. You know, they were about to go back to school soon. You know, remember the big photo that we've seen of her on the screen here, the second one there in the middle, down at on the collage. She was a cheerleader. She looks like a happy kid. But sadly, we just never truly know, you know, what's truly going on in someone's life. And it's always sad to me when it's a child, especially. It's bad enough when it's an adult, but, you know, it's like she didn't feel like she could talk to somebody. I don't know. But again, my heart goes out to, you know, the rest of the family. I know her father and extended family, and to all her friends, because I'm sure this has been a very tough last year without Miranda. All right, guys, I hope you have a great rest of the day, and most of all, stay safe.